In this tutorial, what I'll do is go over assignment A. That's one of the two very short answers that you'll be doing on RECA, and this is for the new exam. And basically what this says is this, that for the two short answers, those are assignments A and B, you're limited to 175 words, as you see right in here, as I highlight. And basically what you're going to be asked about on that one is something related to fluency. So let me go over this with you so that you have some idea about what's going on. All right, here's the question. A second grade teacher frequently uses the following strategy when working with struggling readers who are performing below the second grade fluency benchmark. Okay, now we don't know why that is. We have no idea. We won't know until we get a sense of the activity. Okay, because basically they might not be fluent because if you look down here, because they're not reading accurately, or they're reading too slowly, or they're reading with no intonation. Prosody, remember, is no intonation. So all we know at this point is that they are below the second grade fluency benchmark, but at this point we don't know why. We read this activity now. The teacher selects a variety of supplementary texts that use a controlled vocabulary. Nearly all the words are high-frequency sight words or easily decodable words. And then the teacher has the students read these texts aloud quietly to themselves over a period of days as the teacher monitors their reading. Okay, I know exactly what the nature of the students' problem is. And the reason that I know that is because if I just sort of highlight in here, you'll see that this is the information that I really need to answer this question. So the question is as follows. Using your knowledge of reading fluency, which you know involves really three key elements: accuracy, reading rate, and intonation or prosody. Identify what aspects of fluency this instructional strategy primarily develops. And then you're going to explain how this instructional strategy promotes development of the aspects you identified. Okay, well, based on the information that I'm given, the teacher then has the students read these texts aloud quietly to themselves over a period of days as the teacher monitors their reading. I know what's out. What's out is this. We're not mainly working on accuracy. We are not mainly working on intonation. Primarily what we are working on is reading rate, and I'm going to tell you why from just looking at this. The students are reading quietly to themselves, the teacher's monitoring, but what they're doing is what is called repeated reading. I'll write that in here, repeated reading. So anytime you have students doing repeated reading over and over and over and over again, what you're developing is their speed, their reading rate. So always try to keep that in mind, that repeated readings and speed really go hand in hand. There's a couple of other things in here that are important. Number one, this activity is a very good one if you're trying to increase a student's fluency. But bear in mind that you always want to pick independent level books. That says independent level books right there, believe it or not. And so our independent level books are the ones that we would want to select for doing repeated reading. Moreover, the book should be familiar. Now in this case, the instructor is selecting a variety of supplementary texts that have what's known as a controlled vocabulary, and that's just fine, as you see right in here, a controlled vocabulary. And these books are going to become familiar to the students as they read them over and over and over again. So that's kind of an important thing to remember, that the books that the teacher is selecting are at the students' independent reading level. Moreover, they are familiar to them, or they're going to become familiar to them as they do repeated readings, because repeated readings work on speed. So what aspect of fluency is being developed here? It is really reading rate. It is really speed. And then you're going to give a benefit of how this comes about through repeated readings. Note on all those documents I posted on Blackboard, read everything related to fluency. Because a person's name is going to come up, and that is Samuels. In fact, you probably could even Google Samuels, and that says Samuels, U-E-L-S, Samuels right there. And you'll find that he has done a lot of work on fluency and says basically everything that I just said to you. All right, well, let's look at the answer now if we could. You can see that it is between the 75 to 125 word range. This instructional strategy primarily helps develop students' reading rate. The selected text helps support development of reading rate because they use controlled vocabulary. In other words, primarily easily decodable words, and we know what types of words those are, your CVCs, your CVCEs, ones that have got, when two vows are walking, the first one is talking, those kinds of decodable words. And high-frequency sight words are also characteristic of controlled vocabulary. Research shows that reading text with high readability is often more effective in enhancing reading rate than when readability is not controlled. So familiar independent level books with a controlled vocabulary are extremely important for developing fluency, especially when the students read them over and over and over again. The strategy also promotes reading rate because the teacher selects a variety of these texts and has the students read them over a period of days. This provides the students with repeated practice reading the same words in a variety of contexts, which helps them build their automatic recognition of the words. Automaticity, that's just automatic recognition, that's all that word means, in word recognition is essential for developing reading rate, which enhances fluency. And by extension, once the children are fluent, they have the opportunity to comprehend. Here's their evaluation of this sample response. The assignment assesses competencies in Domain 3. The response fulfills the purpose of the assignment by identifying the aspects of fluency, in other words, reading rate, that this instructional strategy primarily develops, and explaining how the strategy promotes this aspect of fluency. The response reflects an accurate understanding of fluency through its discussion of the role of appropriate texts in supporting development of reading rate and the importance of building automaticity to enhance the reading rate and fluency. I have to work on my reading fluency, apparently. Support for the writer's argument is found in a clear explanation of the factors that enhance the reading rate. And so if I just can scroll back for a second, and we can kind of see how this little essay is organized. If you just look at the front part of it, they really just describe the instructional strategy and what it targets, and its reading rate. It wasn't intonation, in other words, prosody. It was not accuracy, because if I can even scroll back again, why don't I go ahead and do that, and just point things out. Accuracy would have to be handled through some kind of finger pointing. Oftentimes, teachers will also use like a mask like this, a piece of paper with maybe just the inside kind of cut out. I guess my pen isn't going to allow me to write in that symbol again. That's unfortunate, but that's the way that it goes. Where maybe there's a section of it cut out right in here like that, so that they're only seeing a word or a chunk like a phrase like "to the store." No, they're only seeing separate words or chunks of words at a time to develop their accuracy. But there's got to be some kind of intervention, either with a reading finger that they're using to finger point as they read, or some kind of a mask to mask out any interference from other words, to really focus on accuracy. Prosody and intonation is best handled through maybe listening to books on tape, for example, or doing what's called a choral read. Excuse me. Choral reading is just where you read. It's like a chorus, where the students will read together after the teacher models, where the voice goes up and the voice goes down. And even on a choral read, you can use like, if you've got a giant piece of paper with everything written out, maybe you highlight or indicate where the voice goes up and the voice goes down, or where the voice pauses. Anything that's going to be visual and stimulating will work. Okay, well, let me continue. So when they structure this answer, they come right out and say what this activity is targeting, and in this case, it is reading rate. And then they just go walk through the activity. The selected text helps support the development of reading rate because it uses a controlled vocabulary. That comes right out of the question. They said controlled vocabulary, and so should you. And Then they sort of support that by saying research shows that reading text with a high readability is more effective in enhancing the reading rate than when readability is not controlled. And most of your independent level books for early readers are certainly going to have a controlled vocabulary. Very early text might just have cat. Later texts are going to have, words like cereal, let's say, because the rule that, remember that E makes that C sound like an S in here, and that's a much more complicated rule than the simple short vowel CVC rule, for example. Okay, moving on. The strategy also promotes reading rate because the teacher selects a variety of these texts and has the students read them over a period of days. So this is going to make them become more and more familiar. They're at their independent level, they're within their range of abilities, they are decodable, they use a lot of high-frequency sight words, and they are going to become familiar to the students and easier to read as the students progress and practice. And that brings us to the benefit. This provides the students with repeated practice reading the same words in a variety of contexts, which helps build their automatic recognition of the words. Automaticity in word recognition is essential for developing reading rate, which enhances fluency. So basically, they take things right out of the text, which would be the controlled vocabulary that you see right in here. They take the fact that the teacher is taking a variety of texts into account, which is what you see right in here, and then they just basically write in a benefit of this and a benefit of that. So it's a little different from what we've experienced, but it's just a matter of answering the question, pulling details out of the response, and then supporting them with benefits.